Today is day one of the Cool Country Classic softball tournament over at Pioneer Park and Heritage Park, though they're probably going to have to change the name of that tournament because there ain't nothing cool about Prescott this weekend. Today's expected high temperature is, get ready for this, folks, 103 degrees. And we are under a heat advisory until Monday. So if you are playing in the Cool Country Classic, if you're going to watch the Cool Country Classic, take precautions. Drink plenty of water or Gatorade or whatever. Just anything that will help you stay hydrated. Take breaks in the shade. Take breaks often in the shade, I would say. Heck, if you can, go to your car and just sit in it for a couple of minutes with the air conditioner running. Basically, this goes for any outdoor activity that you might be doing. Or, the best thing to do on a day like this, just stay indoors. Also, if you have any neighbors or elderly relatives, check up on them to make sure they're doing okay. Now, I know that sometimes you need to do stuff outside, even on a day like this, but as I said, take precautions. Now, me personally, kind of a funny story about an event I had to do outdoors on a really, really hot day. This is a few years ago. It was middle of July, and Iron Maiden was playing down at the Ak-Chin Pavilion in Phoenix, or whatever they called it back then. That outdoor pavilion seems to go through like 10,000 name changes. But yeah, July in Phoenix, outside, not really the best of conditions. Even when the sun went down, it was still in triple digits, and I was just pounding water all night long during that concert. And of course, when you drink all that water, well, you gotta make some trips to the bathroom. But I'll tell you, the restroom they had there, it was like this concrete blockhouse, something you'd expect to see as part of the defenses of the Maginot Line from World War II. And it was hotter in the bathroom than it was outside. Then, since it's Iron Maiden, they're setting off pyrotechnics every 5 minutes. And as their singer Bruce Dickinson said, "We've got 5,000 pounds of propane we got to detonate tonight." And I can only imagine what it must have been like for the fans near that stage. You got 100-degree weather outside, and then you've got tongues of flames shooting up around the stage. And to this day, I'm still amazed that Bruce Dickinson, the way he performed there, I mean, dude was running up and down the stage all night long, and at one point they played the Trooper, and Dickinson came out, he was wearing the big red coat, he's waving the Union Jack, and I'm just like, how is this guy not passing out from heat exhaustion? But despite how hot it was at that concert, you know what? Totally worth it. Because it was Iron Maiden. And of course, when it comes to this time of the summer, that means it's time for the Major League Baseball All-Star Game, which took place this week. The National League, they defeated the American League 3-2. And does anyone else out there think that the All-Star uniforms are just horrid? Especially the ones the National League wore. Honestly, I think some of our local rec softball teams wear better looking uniforms than what they had for the All-Star game. And it's like, what happened to just having the players wear the uniforms of the teams they play for? Like they've done for decades. I think that's one of the things that makes baseball's All-Star Game so unique, because you couldn't do that for football and basketball or hockey because of how the players from both teams keep intermingling on the field, on the court, or the ice, whatever the case may be. But MLB decided, you know what? To heck with tradition. Let's give our All-Star players butt-ugly uniforms to wear. And I'd probably be more upset about this, but I am just so checked out of present-day Major League Baseball that I just don't care. politics, the new rules, the over-reliance on analytics, the new breed of fan that hates baseball's past and tolerates no dissent from other fans and just lets Rob Manfred and the Players Association lead them around by the nose and have fully embraced the philosophy of don't ask questions, just consume product and get excited for next product. I am just done with MLB in its current form. You know what? I say let Rob Manfred and let the Players Association come up with all the new rules they want and poop on tradition and honestly just keep ruining MLB more, and maybe one day it'll completely crumble to dust. Then hopefully something better will rise from the ashes and take its place. Also, this was one of the lowest rated All-Star games ever for television. And you know what I say about that? Good! And speaking of games, today we're going to talk about games that were way more important and way more exciting than this year's Major League Baseball All-Star Game. Today, we continue with our Summer Top 10 lists, and we kick off what I call the Big Three. The top 10 local female athletes of the year, top 10 local male athletes of the year, they will be coming up on future shows. But today, it's the top 10 local games of the year. And, we had a lot of thrillers during the 2022-2023 school year. And as usual, way more than 10 games to choose from on the candidate list. But I think the ones I picked were the best of the bunch. So you know what? Let's not waste any more time. Let's get right to it with number 10. The last time the Chino Valley football team beat Fountain Hills was back in the 1990s. And who did they open the 2022 season against? Fountain Hills. But it was one tight battle with the game tied 14-14 going into the fourth quarter. That score was soon untied thanks to a rushing touchdown by Johnny Parrish. Then with 1 minute to go, Fountain Hills was driving down the field and chucked the ball, which Joey nicely intercepted to seal the deal. The Cougars got the dub 20-14 to finally break their long winless streak against the Falcons. For that, we named the Chino Valley football team's season opening win over Fountain Hills as the Tri-City Sports Roundup number 10 local game of the year. Next up, we have number 9. When you host a tournament, you don't want to get blown out in it, but the Prescott girls basketball team was in danger of having that happen to them. At the Lady Badger Winter Classic, the Badgers were trailing the Badgers by 18 points in the first half. The Prescott Badgers were trailing the Tucson Badgers. Oh boy, this is going to get confusing. Anyway, Prescott, they regrouped during halftime and went on a tear in the second half. They tied the score and forced the game into overtime. Prescott jumped ahead and held off Tucson for a stunning 48-43 triumph. For such an incredible comeback, we named the Prescott girls basketball team's win over Tucson at the Lady Badger Winter Classic, the Tri-City Sports Roundup, number 9 local game of the year. Hey, before we go to break, folks, we're going to give you number 8. It appeared this would be a lopsided game when it started. The Bradshaw Mountain boys basketball team staked out a double-digit lead early in their game with Williams Field, but the Blackhawks stormed back, and the next thing you know, to quote my old Ace Combat game, we got ourselves a dogfight. Both sides exchanged the lead numerous times. Then, with under a minute left and the Bears trailing by 1, Amari Lawrence nailed the go-ahead bucket. Bradshaw Mountain put up a great defensive effort, and Dante Landis sank 2 free throws in the final seconds to secure a 50-47 victory. For that, we named the Bradshaw Mountain boys basketball team's last-minute win over Williams Field, the Tri-City Sports Roundup number 8 local game of the year. All right, folks, we are just getting warmed up with our top 10 local games of the year. Who else made it onto our list? Who got the number 1 spot for this season? Well, of course, we'll find that out as the show progresses. Meantime, it is break time here on the Tri-City Sports Roundup, so we will be back with more of our top 10 local games of the year list right after this. Welcome back to the Tri-City Sports Roundup, everyone. John Rust with you here. Top 10 local games of the year. That's what we have today on the Tri-City Sports Roundup. Number 9 on our list was the Prescott girls basketball team with an incredible come-from-behind victory in overtime over the Tucson Badgers at the Lady Badger Winter Classic. And we're going to find out a little more about that game. On the line with us right now, we have the head coach of the Prescott girls basketball team, and that is Jamie Johnson, joining us on the show this morning. Hey, Coach, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Hey, John, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Hey, you got it, Coach. So, your game with Tucson, our number 9 local game of the year. First off, well, like I said, Tucson, I think at one point they had an 18-point lead over you. And obviously, when you're looking at a deficit like that, kind of easy to get demoralized. What happened with the Lady Badgers where they were able to turn things around in the second half and ultimately get that win?
Well, at halftime, there's a lot of emotions in that game. As a coach, you're upset because you're down 20. But then you have such a proud feeling that you can go into your team at halftime and get them fired up, get them going. But not just that, but telling them, fundamentally what they need to do to come back. And Tucson had a big girl that was dominating us with scoring and on the boards. And I just said, hey, we have to go to her, attack her, get her in foul trouble. We have to rebound, and we have to play defense. And when we rebound and play defense, I really believe that, your offense just sort of falls in place. And to see those girls, come out and do those things is pretty special.
And I know you had a kind of a young team this year and quite a few of them still trying to gain varsity experience. How much do you think that game helped kind of turn things around for Prescott and maybe give them a couple steps forward in their development to come back from an 18-point deficit and wind up getting the win in overtime?
Oh, there's so many teachable things in that experience. First of all, Tucson was 6A, and that was, I believe, a lot of the reason why we were down at the time because of the lack of experience. But it just, showed the girls that they can do anything. They can come back from anything. It was a team effort. It wasn't one individual on the team, so I think it taught them that, working together, they can accomplish what they want to accomplish working together. There was a lot of teachable moments in that. There was, it taught them that, hey, we can't get down because they know what it took. It was exhausting. It was a tournament when we played in, that game. So our next game, we were pretty spent, emotionally and physically. So it taught them, we can't get in a hole like that. But it was great. There were so many teachable moments in them, and it was, it taught them a lot physically and mentally.
Okay, Jamie Johnson, head coach of the Prescott girls basketball team. Want to thank you for joining us here on the Tri-City Sports Roundup. Talking a little more about our number 9 local game of the year, Prescott's great come-from-behind victory over the Tucson girls basketball team. Coach, always a pleasure to talk to you. You have yourself a good day, and try to stay cool out there.
You too, John. Thank you.
All right. Again, Jamie Johnson, head coach of the Prescott girls basketball team. Back to our top 10 list. We're at number 7. It was quite the challenge for the Yavapai College men's soccer team as they hosted Arizona Western, the number 7 ranked JUCO team in the country. The Matadors drew first blood, but Alejandro Cardona notched a goal to tie the score before halftime. No one scored in the second half, so into overtime we went. With 3 minutes left in the first OT, Cardona came through again, redirecting a Jacob Larson header into the net for the 2-1 victory. That's why we name the Yavapai College men's soccer team's upset win over number 7 ranked Arizona Western in overtime as the Tri-City Sports Roundup number 7 local game of the year. Now it's number 6, if I can control my notes here. The Prescott football team looked like it was on its way to dominating this game early with 2 Cody Leopold touchdowns right off the bat. But Lee Williams battled back and jumped ahead of the Badgers 15-14 in the second half. In the fourth quarter, Kean McKelvey pulled off an 11-yard touchdown run to give the Badgers back the lead. Then the Volunteers regained the lead, making the score 21-20. In the final minute of regulation, Cole Gross nailed a field goal from the 30-yard line to put Prescott back on top. In the waning seconds, Lee Williams launched a Hail Mary. The receiver dove and missed the ball by mere inches, giving the Badgers the 23-21 win. For that, we named the Prescott football team's exciting last-minute win over Lee Williams as the Tri-City Sports Roundup number 6 local game of the year. And you know what? Let's find out a little more about that game, which, of course, we broadcast here on KYCA. We're going to go to the phones right now. We will be talking to Coach Cody Collette, the head coach of the Prescott football team. Hey, Coach, good morning, and thank you for joining us.
Good morning, John. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So, it was kind of funny because I believe it was a couple months ago. We were all at Landon Francis's graduation party, and we were talking about the top 10 lists I had coming up. And, of course, you mentioned the Lee Williams game, thinking that should be on the top 10 list. Well, Coach, you got your wish. That game is our number 6 game of the year. Great. Now everyone is going to be talking about collusion between me and Coach Collette about putting this list together. But come on, folks. This was an incredible game. And, Coach, just take us through that last minute and what it was like for you and the Badgers to come through and pull out that win.
Well, even getting to the last minute, I mean, we had sorry about the dogs in the background there. We go up 14-0. Cody goes down. Kind of had to adjust the game plan on the fly. Hurt his ankle pretty good. Back and forth from that point. Obviously, Lee Williams is a really, really well-coached team. Excellent players. Battle back. We go on a long drive. I think at one point, we gave Kean the ball 7 or 8 times in a row. Long drive. End up taking the lead. And then we get into 4th and 13, and they throw a touchdown pass to take the lead back. Manage Jackson completes a couple balls, had a couple nice timely runs, and we get to a 4th and 6. Kind of debating there, took a timeout. Should we go for this? This is a pretty long field goal, 41-yarder, I believe, to win the ball game, which in high school, that's quite a lengthy kick to win the game, and we decided to go with the kick. Obviously, we have had seen Cole make that kick plenty of times and nailed it under pressure for the win. Also had a big 40-yarder against Lee Williams the year before when we beat him 20-19. Win the ball game 23-21. So absolutely wild game. Tons of twists and turns, back and forth. Well coached, well played. Really fun game. Huge point in our season, too. Had a really tough loss the week before, and we might not be able to get in the playoffs if we don't pull off that victory, and we do. Really indicative of that senior class to me, just how much heart and how much fight they had. I would be remiss if I didn't mention in their 4 years in high school, I believe we led the Grand Canyon in overall wins, region wins, and playoff wins, becoming the first GCR team in over a decade to go to back-to-back quarterfinal trips. So just that game's kind of a perfect microcosm of that group in my view.
Yeah, and this always seems the case. You always seem to wind up having some really exciting games with Lee Williams.
We absolutely have. They do a really good job coaching. They have some tough kids. They're going to be extremely solid this year. They got a lot of guys back. We have had some wild ones, 2019, 23-21 the last couple of years. Even in 2020, that was the first game of the season. The final was not indicative of how close the game was. So we've certainly, over the last few years, played some really tough games with Lee Williams, and I would imagine that would continue. Fun part about being in the Grand Canyon, there's no gimmies, and every week could go either way. So it's a cool part about the region, I think.
All right. Coach Cody Collette, head coach of the Prescott football team. I want to thank you very much for joining us here on the Tri-City Sports Roundup, telling us more about that exciting win you got over Lee Williams, our Tri-City Sports Roundup number 6 local game of the year. Coach, always a pleasure to talk to you. You have yourself a good one.
Thanks, John. You too. Appreciate it.
Hey, you got it. Again, Cody Collette, head coach of the Prescott football team. All right, back to our top 10 list, folks. We are at number 5. The Bradshaw Mountain baseball team bowled over one opponent after another during the regular season, but In the first round of the 4A Conference State Tournament, they were in for quite a battle. After going up 2-0 in the second inning, Rio Rico tied the game in the top of the third. Both teams had plenty of opportunities to score over the next several innings, but couldn't push anyone across the plate. Then, in the bottom of the eighth, Eli Avila led off with a double and moved to third on a Keyshawn Patel single. Up came Tommy McLaughlin, who laced a single to left field to score Avila and give the Bears the 3-2 triumph. That's why we named the Bradshaw Mountain baseball team's extra inning walk-off win over Rio Rico in the state tournament, the Tri-City Sports Roundup, number 5 local game of the year. Next, it's number 4. It looked like the Prescott boys basketball team would have a short run in the 4A Conference State Tournament. In their first round game versus Saul Point Catholic, the Lancers built up a 22-9 lead in the first half. The Badgers' offensive struggles continued in the third quarter, but in the fourth quarter, the script got flipped. Prescott started making baskets and tied the score 53-53 late in the fourth. Cooper Magnet broke the tie with a layup and some insurance buckets, secured a 61-54 victory for the Badgers, propelling them into the Elite Eight of the state tournament. For that, we named the Prescott boys basketball team's come-from-behind win over Saul Point Catholic in the state tournament as the Tri-City Sports Roundup number 4 local game of the year. Moving on to number 3. The Embry-Riddle women's soccer team got to host a national tournament game, and what a memorable game it was. Both Riddle and Missouri Valley were tied 1-1 after the first half, and still tied 1-1 after the second half, and still tied 1-1 after the first overtime. And yeah, you guessed it, still tied 1-1 after the second overtime. So it all came down to penalty kicks. The Lady Eagles couldn't connect on their first 2 shots. Then the Calpac Player of the Year, Ray Yoshioka, put one in the back of the net. Meanwhile, Mo Valley could not get anything past the wall in goal, known as Annabelle Ruckel. On the 5th PK, Caitlin Kelch notched a goal to give her team the win. That's why we named the Embry-Riddle women's soccer team's shootout win over Missouri Valley in the NAIA National Tournament as the Tri-City Sports Roundup number 3 local game of the year. Now we're at number 2. Talk about a nerve-wracking game for all involved. The winner moved on to the Final Four of state, while the loser was done. Period. End of sentence. The desperation was on full display all night long between the Bradshaw Mountain and Cactus boys basketball teams. The Cobras led 11-7 after the first quarter. Then the Bears took a 28-23 lead at halftime. At the start of the fourth quarter, Bradshaw led by 1, 39-38. But Cactus regained the lead and was up 50-49 with 30 seconds remaining in regulation. That's when the wild man, Ben Wilder, dunked the ball to put the Bears back on top. The defense held strong the rest of the way, and Bradshaw got the 51-50 triumph to advance to the Final Four of the 4A Conference State Tournament. For that, we named the Bradshaw Mountain boys basketball team's thrilling win over Cactus in the Elite Eight of state, the Tri-City Sports Roundup number 2 local game of the year. So, guess where that leaves us? Number 1. What game was the most exciting game of the year for our local teams? Well, I'm not going to tell you right now because we got to take a break, run some commercials, and pay some bills. But when we come back, we will unveil the number 1 local game of the year for 2022-2023. We'll be back right after this. And we're back here on the Tri-City Sports Roundup. John Rust with you here on this hot Saturday morning, and it's going to get hotter as the day goes along, folks. Anyway, we are doing our top 10 local games of the year. And before we give you number 1, let's run down numbers 10 through 2. Number 10, Chino Valley football, their win over Fountain Hills. Number 9, the Prescott girls basketball team's come from behind win over Tucson. Number 8, Bradshaw Mountain boys basketball's last-minute win over Williams Field. Number 7, Yavapai College men's soccer and their overtime win over number 7 ranked Arizona Western. Number 6, the Prescott football team's exciting last-minute win over Lee Williams. Number 5, the Bradshaw Mountain baseball team's walk-off extra inning win over Rio Rico in the state tournament. Number 4, the Prescott boys basketball team's come from behind win over Saul Point Catholic in the first round of state. Number 3, the Embry-Riddle women's soccer team's shootout win over Missouri Valley in the NAIA National Tournament. Number 2, the Bradshaw Mountain boys basketball team's last-minute win over Cactus in the state quarterfinals. Now, number 1. They had their sights set on another state championship, but to get it, the Chino Valley boys soccer team had to get past Blue Ridge in the state semifinals. And that would not be easy. Chino Valley's Carlos Rodriguez got the first tally of the game for the Cougars in the first half, but the Yellow Jackets tied it up in the second half. Neither team scored in overtime, so it all came down to PKs to see who would go on to the state title game. Several balls found their way into the net, but keeper Ian Benson came up with 2 huge saves, and the Cougars notched 4 PKs to the Yellow Jackets 3 to come away with the victory, and that would ultimately lead to another state championship. That's why we name the Chino Valley boys soccer team's shootout win over Blue Ridge in the state semifinals the Tri-City Sports Roundup 2022-2023 number 1 local game of the year, and we're going to find out more about this number 1 game of the year. On the line with us, man, oh man, how many times has he been on the show with us this summer during our top 10 list, man? Chino Valley boys soccer, they're kind of bogarting our top 10 lists here during the summer. But on the line with us right now, we have the head coach of the Chino Valley boys soccer team, and that is Todd Carey. Well, Coach, welcome back to the show, man, again. And it seems like you're kind of becoming a weekly guest here on our top 10 lists.
Hey, thank you for having me on, John. I really appreciate it. I like getting on here and talking to you.
Hey, no problem. And boy, oh boy, do we have a great thing to talk about here. That semifinal game, it looked like for a while you guys were going to wrap it up in regulation, but then Blue Ridge came back, tied it up. You had to go into a shootout. Just talk about some of the things you were doing on the bench prior to that shootout to kind of make sure that the guys, didn't get too nerve-wracked over it.
It's going over the list and seeing, who the shooters might be if we do end up going into a shootout, and just making sure they get onto the field so that their first, touch on the ball isn't a PK shot, because that can be awfully nerve-wracking. But honestly, throughout the game, I just didn't know if it was going to go to a PK shot or not. We took the lead early in the first half and kind of felt really good. I thought we were holding the game really well, holding possession really well. And then Blue Ridge, they're a great team. They got a great coach and great players, and they battled through, and they were able to tie it in the middle of the second half. And once they did, boy, they got some momentum, and we kind of had to hold on. But then in the overtimes, I thought we came around. We played really well. We just couldn't finish it out in regular time, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. And I think one of the things when you're talking about a team like Chino Valley, you are our number 1 local team of the year, had a great regular season record. And sometimes it feels like when a team just kind of mows through the regular season and they just, chomp down on one opponent after another, you get to a game like this where the stakes are really high and it's the thing, and the game isn't going as, for lack of a better word, easily as you would like it to. Sometimes that will force a team to crumble because it's like we've never been in a situation like this. So what was the mentality of the team when they realized that, hey, this isn't going to be a team that we're just going to be able to roll over? We really got to work in order to get this win.
Oh, absolutely. Every time we play Blue Ridge, it's a knockdown, drag-out fight. They're such a good team. There's never one of those games where we take them for granted. We know they're going to show up and play. We know they want to beat us, and even the year before, we beat them in PKs. So I know they came into Chino. They wanted nothing more than a win against us, and they would be ready to play. When we closed out the end of the season, we closed out on a loss against Sedona, And I never say losing is a good thing. I really don't believe ever losing is a good thing. But in this case, I can say it motivated us a little bit, losing that last game of the season and showing us that we're not invincible. We have to work hard. We have to show up. We have to play. Teams aren't just going to give us the win. We have to go out there and earn it. And we played really well in the playoffs, and we played really well in that game as well.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, you got your four guys who connected on their shots. Certainly big time performances there, but also big time performance in net by Ian Benson in that game. Because, he let 3 balls get by him, but he came up with 2 huge saves, and those proved to be the difference in getting you to that state championship game.
He really did. And it's really good to see that, too, because during the season, we really do have a great defense. We pride ourselves on being tough on defense, not allowing a shot. And so there's a lot of times where Ian doesn't really get to flex his muscles. He doesn't get to show that he can make these great saves because the defense is outstanding. And this was one of those chances where Ian got up there and he looked super calm, super collective, and he went out there and performed, and he did an absolute outstanding job.
Mm-hmm. And, well, Coach, looking ahead to this coming season, which is going to begin in about a month here, just tell us how the team is looking as you try to make a run for a three-peat here at the state title.
I'm really excited. We've had really good summer workouts, a lot of boys coming out, putting in a lot of hard work. We're growing. We're not losing a lot of players, but we're losing some really good talent. So we have a few holes to fill. But the guys that we have coming in and stepping up, I'm really excited. Our junior class is really good, very talented, and they're really stepping up their game. Moving some things around this summer, moving a couple guys to a couple different positions, I think is really going to make us strong, and I'm really excited to get out there and get the season started and see how these guys perform because I'm really excited. It should be a great year for us.
So any idea who could be your stiffest competition in trying to get to that state title? Well, I imagine it's going to be Blue Ridge again because they always seem to be able to put together really good teams no matter who they graduate from the year before.
I never count out Blue Ridge, even when I look at them and go, oh, okay, they lost a whole bunch of seniors, they may be down. Next thing you know, they have 3 or 4 foreign exchange students from all over the world, and they're terrific. So I never count them out. And they're, like I said, they're really well coached. So they're always tough. Sedona is going to be absolutely terrific this next year. Again, they beat us last year, and then we beat them in the state championship game. They're only losing 2 seniors, so they're pretty much returning almost their whole team. Another one that I think we probably need to keep our eye on is Northland Prep. Their boys team had a really strong season last year, pretty impressive. And when you look at their roster, I think they only had like 1 senior on their team. So I expect them to perform really well again this year. And again, any of those teams out of the East, the Sholo, the Snowflakes, they're absolutely terrific and never an easy game for us.
Yeah, so I'm going to say it sounds like it is going to be a real mixed bag for the race to the state title this year. So sounds like you're going to be in for some really good games this year. And who knows, maybe next summer when we do these lists, we might see Chino Valley boys soccer on here more than once.
I sure hope so. That's a good thing.
All right. Well, Coach Todd Carey of the Chino Valley boys soccer team, want to thank you very much for joining us here on the Tri-City Sports Roundup, talking to us about our number 1 local game of the year for 2022-2023. That, of course, your shootout win over Blue Ridge in the state semifinals. Coach, always a pleasure to talk to you. And again, congratulations on making number 1 on our list for what was an outstanding and memorable game for the Cougars there on the pitch.
Thank you, John. Thanks for having me on. Thank you for everything you do. We appreciate you.
Hey, you got it, Coach. You have yourself a good one.
All right, you too. Thank you.
All right, folks. Well, again, Todd Carey, head coach of the Chino Valley boys soccer team. Again, our number one local game of the year, their shootout win over Blue Ridge in the state semifinals. And that's going to do it for another top 10 list. Man, oh man, we only have 2 more top 10 lists to go here. We will have our top 10 local female athletes of the year, top 10 local male athletes of the year. And then when we get through with that, well, school will be back in session. Teams will be out there practicing. The collegiate teams will be going through their scrimmages. Oh, geez, man, I can't believe it's almost time for the fall sports season for 2023. Not only that, but when you go to Prescott, Bradshaw Mountain, Chino Valley High Schools, and get ready for volleyball, you're going to be looking around at some revamped gyms. All 3 high schools, they had big improvement projects over the spring and summer, so we've got new bleachers at all 3 of the high schools. I believe Bradshaw and Chino Valley, they also redid their floors. I think Prescott had to put in some new electrical systems in their gym. So everything I heard from the ADs over there, Missy Townsend at Prescott, Clorinda Weatherwax at Bradshaw, and Matthew Dunn over at Chino Valley, they're really, really impressed with all the work that went into these improvements to their gymnasiums. And I think it's going to make it really, really good for people to go to and catch volleyball and basketball and wrestling. I'm certainly looking forward to calling some volleyball and basketball games over at Prescott and Bradshaw Mountain just to check out how the new gym is. And I don't think they built any separate broadcast facilities for us, but you know what the heck, we'll manage. I think we'll be just fine. So anyway, great to see that these improvement projects going down and supporting the local athletes and coaches there. By the way, folks, programming note, next Saturday, we will be running a best of show here on the Tri-City Sports Roundup because I'm taking another week off. Hey, why not, man? Got to get in all my vacation time before things really get hot and heavy on the local sports scene. So I am off all next week. We will have a best of show next Saturday on the Tri-City Sports Roundup. And I'm keeping my fingers crossed that this vacation I can avoid a bout of food poisoning like what happened the last time I took a week off last month, bout of food poisoning. That forced me to miss the Tardia Turin concert. So I still have not seen live the original lead singer for Nightwish. I mean, I'm not, but what am I saying? Of course, I'm still bitter about it. I'm going to be bitter about that for years. Tardia Turin, one of the most awesome singers ever, man, and had the chance to see her live, and I missed out on it. Oh, man. I'm still going to be complaining about that probably a decade from now. Anyway, folks, as I said, next week, best of show. When we come back 2 weeks from now, we will have our Tri-City Sports Roundup top 10 local female athletes of the year. The week after, it will be the top 10 local male athletes of the year. Excuse me there. And once again, a lot of really, really good candidates for both lists. Going to be kind of tough to try to narrow that down to 10, but I think I can do it. Well, I better do it because it's going to be part of the show, so I kind of have no choice there. Also, folks, tonight is the regular season finale for the Northern Arizona Wranglers. They're down in Phoenix at the Footprint Center. They'll be taking on the Arizona Rattlers. And congratulations to the Northern Arizona Wranglers for the second year in a row. They qualified for the Indoor Football League playoffs. So best of luck to them. Of course, the Wranglers, the defending IFL champions. And Wranglers were able to sew up that fourth and final playoff spot in the IFL Western Conference with the great win they had over the Massachusetts Pirates last Saturday. And of course, helped out by a loss by the San Diego Strike Force to sew up everything there. So best of luck to the Wranglers down in Phoenix tonight, and best of luck for them in the playoffs as well. Well, folks, again, that is going to do it for our show. Again, thank you very much for joining us here on the Tri-City Sports Roundup. And as I said before, it is going to be a hot one out there today. Expected high 103 degrees. We are in a heat advisory for the Tri-City area through Monday. So take precautions, drink plenty of water, plenty of juice, plenty of sports drink. Just stay hydrated, stay in air conditioning. If you don't really have to go out today, probably done, or if you are going to go out, go to a place that you know is very cool, has air conditioning, like a movie theater. In fact, you can go there and see Sound of Freedom. In fact, speaking of which, go to our YouTube channel, KYCA Digital. One of my latest Rust rants, I do a movie review for the Sound of Freedom. incredible emotional movie. I highly recommend you go see it. I think last I heard, the movie was up to about $59 million at the box office, and this is against a $14 million profit. Or a $14 million budget, excuse me. So it's already made a very good profit. And again, I definitely highly recommend you go see this movie, and also check out my review of it on the Rust Rants podcast on our YouTube channel, KYCA Digital. Also, obviously, no new episodes of Rust Rants for next week since I'm off. A week from now, the last week in July, we'll be back to doing Rust Rants as usual. Till then, folks, have yourselves a good one. I'll see you next time.